Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fundadores Lounge. I'm delighted today that I have with me Dag Holmboe, who is the CEO of Pacific Cigar. And we're beginning to light up with my favorite cigar, and I think it's one of Dag's favorite cigar, which is the Trinidad Fundadores. So just a moment.
I started before Anne, so I have already lit mine. It is a very, very good cigar.
Thank you, Dag. And you'll notice that Dag likes to light with a torch. I prefer to light with a match because I just enjoy lighting my cigars with a match. And this Fundadores happens to be my all-time favorite cigar, which I started buying in 1999 and have continued to enjoy as my top favorite. But Dag, what are some of your favorite cigars?
At the moment, it sort of depends. Because I'm in the cigar business, I sort of have to smoke a bit of everything. But at the moment, I like Oyo San Juan very much. I do like these, but unfortunately, they are very rare and not much available. So I don't really feel like I can sit and smoke something that is not that often we have in the market, to be honest. But I do remember the first time I met you. That was actually in the Grand Hyatt in 2002. And I was new to the business. I was meeting, it was a big conference in the Grand Hyatt. I knew nobody, say it mildly. And then I saw a lady with a very big, long cigar in the middle of the room. And I thought, I go and speak to her. And that was Anne. That's how we met. And there you are. So Fundadores have an important impact on our relationship.
Which was more than 20 years ago. And it was at that point, you were working for David Tang then, is that right?
Yeah, because David Tang was then alive, yes.
Can I ask you, you originally come from Norway.
I do.
So you're a Viking. How did you end up in, well, aren't they all?
Okay, I'm a Viking.
All right. How did you end up meeting David Tang?
Oh, long story, but make it a short one. I worked in Cuba. That's how it all started. I worked in Cuba for 3 years, not in the cigar business. It's something much less sexy. It was engine oil and lubricant business for a company called Burma Castrol at the time. And it was not that many foreigners living in Cuba at the time. I met the people in Habanos. After some years there, I moved back to the UK, but I was still chairman of this company in Cuba. And we got taken over by BP. I actually didn't like BP. I have nothing against BP, I just didn't like working for them. And someone who was then the chairman in Habanos said to me, have you ever thought about joining the cigar business? Because I know that David Tang, who I didn't know, was looking for a CEO. And I said, yeah, why not? I met David, and 6 months later I was here.
Well, can I ask, when you met David, were you smoking quite a few cigars in Cuba?
I smoked cigars.
Okay, all right.
And that was all I knew about that industry.
Okay, and when David approached you, did he have a vision of what he wanted to achieve? Did he have any cigar clubs, or where was he?
He had a few. I mean, it was a very small company at the time, or relatively small company at the time, because it didn't have a big retail presence, and we didn't do that much business. I think we had a shop in Thailand, we had a shop in Taiwan, I think, and 2 or 3 in Hong Kong, and that was it. I think his main motivation, he wanted a CEO to run the business because he had a lot of other things he wanted to do and didn't have the time to run PCC.
I see. And can I ask then, once you took it over, did you have a vision of what you wanted to do with the business?
Well, first I had to learn about the business because, like I said, I didn't know anything about it, or very little, apart from smoking cigars, but that is not knowing the business. So I had to learn what was going on, find out what the problem or the challenges in the business were, or in the PCC as it was, and then formulate what I wanted to do.
All right. And what did you discover back then were some of the challenges that you were going to be facing?
Well, already then they had started developing anti-tobacco legislation, if you want to call it that. So it was, first of all, was to know the countries, because, I mean, when you talk about Japan, Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Taiwan, they are very different cultures. And you have to understand the culture of a country, I believe, in order to be able to function well in the business community there. So that was the first thing. Then I had to learn what PCC was actually doing, and then come up with some ideas of how we could do better.
But how did you actually start doing that? You were in many
Traveled.
different cultures.
No, I just traveled around for 6 months.
And you,
I had a suitcase, packed it, and traveled the whole of Asia.
how did you find the people in these indigenous areas who wanted to get involved in cigars?
Well, I was lucky because we already had 1 or 2 managers, like in Thailand. We had a manager who's been there since the start. In Hong Kong, of course, there was already a team. We had a person in Singapore, one in Indonesia, if I remember right, and that was it. We had more than one person, but we had managers, obviously. So I traveled around and went to Australia and New Zealand as well, since that was just becoming part of our territory. And what all these countries, what I figured out was the main issue was that with all this smoking legislation, it was going to be more and more difficult to find places where people could enjoy a cigar, buy a cigar, but more importantly, where we could communicate with the consumers. Because if you can't do marketing, you can't do advertising, you can't do promotion, you are a bit stuck. And the only way we could move that forward was to have a lot of retail outlets, because in retail outlets you can talk to the customer, they can smoke the cigars, or at least in most of them. You can do tastings, you can do events. So I went to David and said, we really need to expand our retail base. And we did. From a very modest start, today we have 45 of them, I think.
45
Retail and lounges across Asia.
across Asia. 45. How many do you have in Hong Kong?
17 at the moment.
Which was one of the more challenging for you?
Challenging to open?
Yeah.
Probably Australia. Because Australia has a lot of other regulation, not necessarily related directly to tobacco, but in order to build anything in Australia, you need a lot of permits, a lot of permits. And that is quite challenging. And Australia is a complete different market. It's not Asia as such. The culture is different, the people are different, and we had a lot of challenges in Australia.
Okay, this may sound like a weird question. I wanted to ask, because not everyone could manage something like that. You've got Korea, you've got Australia, you've got Taiwan, you've got so many different cultures that are so different, and regulatory processes. But do you think it was helpful, Norway? You had before, when you left Norway, England, you've traveled a lot. How many languages do you speak?
I have to think English, Norwegian, obviously, German, some Spanish, French.
Right.
That's about
okay,
it.
right. So you've lived in many different countries, and you've experienced.
Already when I moved here, I had lived in Cuba, obviously. I lived in Norway because I was born there. I lived in England. I lived in France. I lived in Holland. I lived in Africa.
Right. Okay.
And I think one advantage of being not particularly being Norwegian is that you're coming from a complete different culture.
Yeah.
Which is so removed from most of the Asian cultures, at least. So you just had to adapt to all the cultures.
Right.
You sort of forget that you are Norwegian, because that doesn't really count. You just have to sort of adapt yourself to whichever culture you're in.
But you've also, Dag, in what I've experienced since having known you since 2002, each of the areas that you've set up, and I saw it from the beginning, you've basically turned some of these people into millionaires and successful entrepreneurs. You've been very empowering in what you did in terms of helping them to get...
Who are these millionaires? I'm not sure I met them yet.
They seem to be very successful. And I think you were a part of that, of helping them to be able to build out those clubs, set things up and so on. And they're dealing with their own indigenous areas, but that you were able to relate to those people as you did. Were there any secrets or anything that how you engaged in it? How do you found those people to open up the clubs?
Well, as I said, some of them were already there. I mean, I was lucky because I had a very good local management team, especially here in Hong Kong. And the people that I joined are still the same people that I are today, many of them. I mean, we have a very good retention rate in the company, and every year we have people that's been there for 30 years, 25 years, and so on. So I was very lucky in as much as I got a very good base. And I think Of the country managers that we have today, that left for other reasons, all the others are the same people that was there from when I joined or that I recruited just after I joined.
But you put together quite a, I don't want to call it a fraternity, but a camaraderie as well. You know, that people really enjoy getting together. You have your annual meetings, semi-annual meetings to share ideas, to exchange.
Yeah, I think we try to make PCC a fun company to work with. You know, life has to be more than just work and work and work. You have to enjoy it at the same time. And I think PCC have created a culture where people enjoy it. And people have a lot of freedom. I'm a master of delegation. I delegate a lot. And I think it's very important that people have freedom to express themselves, to come up with their ideas, because it can't be me that have all the ideas, it has to come from other people. And have an open communication and all that helps. And also to make it fun to be in PCC.
Which you do.
I hope so.
Which you do. I mean, you throw in incredible parties. You have everyone there. It's almost as if these people live. I mean, it's almost like they're best friends. And in fact, the international people I've met through this group has just been so amazing. They're lovely.
I think that is one of the big advantages when you work in this industry is that you, first of all, you meet people from all sorts of backgrounds. I mean, you have a different background than I have. You do in a different industry. Our customers are everything from doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, IT, whatever. I'm sure there's many from other professions as well. And you meet all these people. And it's very stimulating because what they all have in common is a passion for cigars, or particularly for Cuban cigars. And that brings people together.
Okay, now that brings up another subject. All right. Why the Cuban cigar? Why is it so special? What you know, when you started in the industry, you smoked them, but you didn't really know very much about it. What makes it so special?
I think it's a combination. Well, it's sort of what you read and hear everywhere. Really, there's no magic to it as such. It's basically the country itself, where the tobacco. Remember that Cuba is a very big country. It's 1,200 kilometers long. But the tobacco that is used for cigars is grown in a very, very small area, probably 50 square kilometer or something like that, most of it anyway, called Pina de Rio. And it has a unique microclimate and a unique earth or ground, which makes it grow extremely good tobacco for cigars. They grow tobacco in the rest of the country, but that tobacco is used for cut tobacco to make cigarettes and everything else, but the tobacco used for cigars come from a very, very small part of Cuba. And then you have the expertise. I mean, Cuba has been producing cigars forever, or more or less forever, not forever, for a long time.
For hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years. So they have a culture, the know-how, the expertise to make good cigars. People have tried to copy them. They use seeds from from Cuba, they grow them in Nicaragua or in Honduras and say that it's based on Cuban seed, but it doesn't become Cuban tobacco.
And that's because it just doesn't have the same soil?
Because it hasn't got the same soil, doesn't have the same climate, hasn't got the same workers, all that.
I mean, you know, one of the things that I discovered was actually the love behind the cigars. I use that word very passionately. Because when I see the people who are involved in the cigar business, even the ones who are planting, the way that they are handling these leaves, the way that they are nurturing them, the way that they are letting them mature, the way they're then rolling them, is each one is, I get the feeling people really enjoying what they're doing.
I think they do. I think the Cubans that work in the tobacco industry have a passion for what they are doing. And having a passion for what you do always helps.
Yeah. Are there, let me kind of come back for a second. In this club, Cohiba Atmosphere, which is a beautiful Art Deco, how did this come about?
It came about basically because we had created a sort of membership loyalty program. And we had we call them VIP customers. And we were, to some extent, running out of benefits, what to give them or what to offer them as benefit. So what we did was that we said, okay, we're going to make a special club where only our VIP members can become members. So it's not per se that you can just pay and become a member here. First, you have to be our customer or our most important customer, and then you can become member. So it was a place that they could congregate and go and meet people with the same passion. That was the background. And then David Tang decided, or we decided together, that once we had found a place, which was complicated, but once we found a place to take it, used to be a doctor's office.
This was a doctor's
This
office
was a
with
doctor's
the
office.
penthouse, with the balcony and
The
so on.
balcony is just there for them to wash the windows. That's the only reason there is a balcony.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So we converted it from a doctor's office to Art Deco cigar shop and lounge.
And was David involved in this Art Deco design?
Every centimeter and every square centimeter of this place he was involved in, yes. David was very, very involved in all the retail outlets in Hong Kong. He really, really, because one, he was an extremely good designer.
Yeah.
And he had the eye for it, and he could do it very, very fast and very efficient. And he loved to do it. So nobody else wanted to get too involved in what he did. He just did it.
And it was his idea to turn this into an Art Deco design, and there it went. I mean, it is, I think, one of the most beautiful clubs I've...
It is. It's very unique. And he liked different styles. We have Red Chamber that you have also been to, which is completely different style and a different feeling to it altogether, which he also designed because he loved to do it. Well, you've been to China Club, you've seen how beautiful that is.
Yeah.
And there isn't a square meter in China Club that he didn't do himself, that's for sure, at least from the design point.
I think it's interesting with David. One of the other milestones for me was when you had the old Red Chamber, and there was a beautiful handbag, which was a Partagas bag. It was a box, but it had a handle on it, and it was velvet inside, and it was so beautiful. And I was like, Dag, please, I've got to have this bag. And thank you. And what was the background with that bag?
Oh, it was an idea that we were going to make cigar handbags. So handbags made on the concept of cigar. And it got as far as your prototype, which you have, and that's the one and only. We never made another one.
Never made another one. So I have the one prototype, right?
It was one of our projects that didn't materialize.
Well, anyway, I'm absolutely delighted that I'm the one that was the recipient of this design, because everywhere I go, people will go, "Oh, where's your bag today?" It's like bringing.
It's a great bag. We should pick it up again.
We should. I mean, it really was remarkable. But going back to David Tang, who was so much involved in the luxury market, do you think that he's been responsible for, in a way, cigars are something that I enjoy. It's almost a meditation, but it's also a social engagement. It's also, I love the taste of it. I love Cuba. But what he's done, I think, is taken it to another level, and you as well, to make this more of a luxury product. Is that what?
I think we made it more a lifestyle.
Okay.
That it isn't really just the product. It's the whole atmosphere around the product, where you buy the product, the way you store the product, and of course the way you smoke the product or enjoy the product. And then it's more about the people that you surround yourself with, the people that you meet when you sit and smoke, friends you make, associations that you make with those people and whatever. So it is a complete lifestyle more than just selling a product. That's my view.
Do you sometimes bring in some luxury ideas within this? What are some examples of that?
How do you mean?
Well, I think sometimes I've seen you promote, like with watches or some of the Swiss watches.
I mean, we cooperate with other brand owners, watches, food, drinks, cars, anything that is we think has an association with the same type of lifestyle as the product that we sell. And then we can do cross-marketing with our people, or our customers can be interested in caviar.
Right.
And the caviar customers can be interested in cigars, and then it goes hand in hand.
But it seems that it's converted into more of a, would I say, luxury quality product. Of course, it's more expensive now than it used to be. When I bought my box of Fundadores in 1999, it was $2,000, and they are now worth $80,000. So the value of these cigars was $70,000 actually sold for. All right,
Okay.
That's quite a jump in terms of its overall value. It seems like this quality conversion. It seems like it's gone to a lifestyle now where younger people are enjoying the passive smoking, meeting new people. It is a whole new lifestyle.
Well, I think the prices that you mentioned is also related to collectors. Is that people are now collecting and investing in cigars. Much more than people did maybe 20 years ago. And that, of course, has driven up the prices quite considerable on those cigars that are considered to be collectible.
And how is that market going?
At the moment, it's going fine. You know, we have a collaboration with Madison Auction, where we sell cigars, or we don't sell them. Madison Auction cigars that come from our collectors. So the cigars are authentic because we only offer cigars that are bought from PCC and stored in our warehouse, as you know. And then they are offered to collectors or smokers around Asia. And it's been very successful.
But let me ask you this, in the beginning, people were not collectors. As you said, we just smoked and we shared smokes and so on, including like Dr. Nee. Then it's turned into more of a collector's item. How did that conversion happen?
I think it's not necessarily across all countries in Asia.
Oh.
I don't think every country has. I think Hong Kong has a very unique culture, if I may say so. Hong Kong people seem to collect absolutely everything. Cars, watches, wine, cigars. So it's part of the Hong Kong culture, I think. And it has spread, so the mainland Chinese do the same thing to some degree in Macau and Taiwan. But when you go to some of the other countries, cigars is still more a consumable. It's not something that you necessarily will sit and hold for 10 years, either because you prefer the cigar when it's 10 years old, or you hope that you will make money out of it.
I see.
And when you go to Europe, it's a complete different culture.
Oh.
In Europe, the concept of vintage cigars is relatively unknown or not very popular. They smoke fresh cigars in many countries.
Oh, really?
Not everybody, but a lot of people.
But, so when these people were collecting, did your staff try to help them in their investment content and saying, we think this is going to have greater value? Like there was a Fundadores farmhouse and there have been some different relics that have come out. Did they help to some of your smokers?
To some extent, but I think our consumers or clients figured it out by themselves. I mean, people collect what they like.
Right.
There's two types of collectors of everything, isn't there? There's one type of collector that purely look at it from a financial benefit, and the other ones that look upon it as a cigar that I will keep for 10 years and then I will smoke it because I enjoy it after 10 years or when it's 10 years old. So I think it's different purpose for different people. And some obviously do both financially and because they prefer vintage cigars.
Yes.
Did we help them? Yes, I guess we did. It is fairly simple. For example, if you're going to collect for financial purposes, you're going to collect the most popular cigars and the cigars that are in limited quantities. You're not going to start collecting mass market products. Well, you can, but it's probably less of interest.
Sometimes get asked by my friends in cigars, when it comes to the investment, should I get gold? Should I have crypto? Should I have this? Should I have a mixture of things? And I'm like, diversification is definitely the key, especially in volatile markets, but even for longer term holding. And I've seen, whereas before, nobody was smoking Fundadores. No one wanted the long, thin cigar. Now everybody wants it, and we can't even buy them. Yeah. When we came in today, you said, where'd you get that box?
Well, we are getting them into the market again. We are launching them, the new collection of 10-year vintage, this month.
Oh, are you?
So now you have the opportunity again.
Oh, my
but
goodness.
But they're not cheap.
Oh, they're not. Really? How many are there in each little stash?
I think it's 55 in each box. 10-year vintage.
Oh.
That Habanos has kept for 10 years.
Oh.
And they come in a St. DuPont box. Very pretty box.
All right. So that's going to be extremely...
They're going to be relatively expensive, yeah. But
okay.
Not that expensive when you compare to what Trinidad costs at the moment. Not that much more than what is the current price for
Oh,
vintage.
really? Oh, I'll have to definitely check. I'll have to check that
Yeah,
out.
you
I'll have to
should.
check that out. Yeah, I do. I know. When I was at one of the auctions recently, I was talking to one of the guys and said, "Are you going to auction for something?" And he said, "No, actually, I'm selling something." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I have some boxes." He said, "I've got so many cigars now I've collected through the years that I know the ones that I really like and the ones that I don't enjoy that much. So I'm going to go ahead and let them go. And the value of them has gone up 10 times or whatever it is. So he's putting it into these auctions now, which I think is..."
Well, that was the idea of the auctions when we started. It was basically that we keep a lot of cigars for customers. And we know that some of them have collected huge quantities, more than they can probably smoke in a lifetime for that matter. And some of them wanted to sell, sell some of their cigars. But there wasn't any outlet, especially in Asia, for selling cigars.
Yeah.
Because some of the main auction houses doesn't do cigar auctions anymore. So we came up with the idea to give our customers an outlet, because at the same time we had customers that wanted to buy cigars.
Right.
So instead of they sitting in a shop and trying to figure out if A, B, and C wanted to buy cigars, we gave them a media, if you can call it that, where they could meet buyer and seller and buy and sell cigars. That was the idea.
And that worked very well.
It has worked very well, yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of happy people with it. You know, what I find with cigars, again, the magic of it, not only the culture and the relaxation with it, but the number of people that I meet, as you said, it's such a diverse crowd. You never know. I meet female engineers, either doctors or lawyers, but also different walks of life.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to engage in some of the conversations. Say, "Oh, what are you smoking?"
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, what are you smoking?" "Yeah, what do you like?" "Oh, I like Monte Cristo. I like..."
It's a very good introduction. If you go to a cigar bar like this one, you know that you at least have one thing in common. You all like cigars. That's a good start.
Speaking of which, when this club opened and I was invited to join, and my friend said, "Oh, get there early because, I think there are going to be a lot of people there." This is my friend in the States. So how do you know that? She said, "Just go." All right. So it was supposed to start at 5 o'clock, I think. And she said, "Go now." This was like 3. I said, "But it's too early. Just get over there." By the time I got here, there was a queue out the door.
Yeah?
There was a queue out the door. And I walked in and they said, "Come take a look." I said, No, just give me a locker. I'll take this one. "No, have a smoke, relax." I said, "No, I have to get my locker now." And it's such a lovely, lovely club.
It is a lovely club.
And different walks of life that are coming in here. So it's wonderful. Yeah, I totally enjoy it. So I also wanted to, I was mixing in with the luxury because, okay, I've been smoking cigars for probably 30 years, but I have seen a complete shift in terms of people associating cigars with very quality lifestyle, luxury lifestyle. It's different, I think, from 25 years ago when we would sit and have a smoke and just enjoy that relaxation. Same, but it's evolved into another world. We had Churchill, of course, we had Hemingway, we had very famous figures that were smoking cigars. Now it seems to have gone into more of a status, actually, as well.
I don't know. It depends. Again, I think it depends very much where you go. You frequent this place
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah.
which has a certain clientele who's been there for years, many of them, and they have evolved.
Yeah.
And they're also getting older.
Yeah.
We all are.
We all are.
But I think if you go to certain other cigar bars that we have, or certain other countries, it's a very much a younger clientele. Go to Taiwan, for example. I think there is very much young people enjoying cigars, maybe in the same way as the collectors or the ones that you are talking about enjoyed cigars 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
I think there is more young people joining the cigar world, if you want to call it that. One, because they're quitting cigarettes, because cigarette is not so popular anymore. And also because of the lifestyle. So I think one has to be careful to sort of say it's the same in all countries, because it is quite different, I think.
I mean, what I feel sometimes with the tradition of the cigars. Did your dad smoke cigars?
Few. I stole some from him. Always an advantage to have a dad that smoked cigars.
Well, exactly.
Well, I stole his cigarettes as well. So.
Oh, okay. Me too. But anyway, I think that, there's There's an emotional connection with this as well, where many of the fathers or grandfathers smoked, and it connects them back to their own family heritage in a way when they're relaxing and remembering what it was like at home when people were having their cigars and bringing it into a club environment. What I've experienced in these clubs is that you've provided an environment here, which 30 years ago, of course, they were much younger, for people to find a place to get together.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's hard to really meet people sometimes. You know, okay, maybe you play sports or you play golf, but you can only meet a few of the people. This has really opened up and I think empowered a lot of people to enjoy life more and to have some place to go to just talk to people. What's happened with politics? What's going on with sports? What's happening with so many different things? It is a whole new world for me. Now, maybe for the guys, you know, where you play soccer and football, and they've got their little clubs and so on. But I found in what I've seen is that it's also been a place of empowerment, you know, and giving them some place to come rather than just going out and drinking or drugging or whatever it might be. They can play backgammon, you know, they can.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's part of the whole lifestyle concept, that there's more to cigars than just smoking the cigar. It is about the people you meet, the possibility to go to various clubs, meet other people, and you have this one thing in common. But that makes it very easy to then to be introduced to the other people there, because they also have cigars as a hobby or as an interest.
Right.
And that's, well, it makes conversation easier to start with. And the whole idea having all these cigar lounges is that people can go, enjoy a cigar, have a drink if they want, or tea if they like that, and meet other people and having a nice time while they're enjoying their cigar. Listening to music if they like music, have a drink if they like that, and chat.
I think it's been just a great place to be able to chill out and get away, as well as meeting other friends. You know, I was just in Bangkok, and I guess this goes back to regulations. And I was there with Xavier and Joe, actually. We all happened to be at the same time. And Joe came out with a cigar that was wrapped in cellophane. And I thought, what's a New World cigar doing here? What's happened in Bangkok? You're wrapping the individual cigars now.
Yes, that is because of regulations. Because we have to put tax stamp on each cigar.
Tax stamp.
Tax stamp, yeah. And in order to put the tax stamp on a cigar, you don't really want to put it on the tobacco. Well, you can't, obviously. That would be very, very bad. Wouldn't sell many then. So in order to overcome that, you have to wrap each cigar in cellophane.
Oh, my gosh.
Which traditionally the Cubans don't do with most cigars. But they're doing it with the new Trinidad, by the way. You will see that when the new Trinidad come out, they are actually in cellophane. But the main reason for that was simply that in order to put the tax stamp on, because you're not allowed to sell individual cigars without tax stamp, so we had to put cellophane on.
So you had to open up another operation that actually wraps individual cigars.
Yeah,
which is
like
another...
we do for countries that has plain packaging, like, you know, in Australia and Singapore, we have to take the cigars out of the original packaging, put them into a separate packaging, which is called plain packaging.
How do you know what cigar you're getting then?
You still have a band with a name.
But then you're adding on the...
There is a band above the band. The cigar band is underneath. Or the original band is underneath the new band. But you're not allowed to show logos or color or anything else. It all has to be a sort of green color.
But this speaks then of the integrity that you've established with Pacific Cigar as well, that you don't bring in fake cigars. You're having to give people a good cigar when they come in to see you.
We definitely don't bring in fake cigars.
Yeah. But sometimes maybe they find their way into the mainstream somehow.
You will never find them in our shop because we buy all our cigars directly from Cuba and from Habanos, from the producer. And they don't produce fake cigars in Habanos, that's for sure. That I can guarantee. But yes, there are fake cigars in the market, of course. There's a lot of fake cigars. And that's why we have developed our authenticity seal, the one that we use now, which has NFC technology, so you can scan it and it will confirm what it is, which factory code it has, what date it has, the barcode it has, and everything else
On the box.
on the box.
Oh, that's terrific. Because in the old days, they would stamp it with some A, B, C, D, E, which you had no idea what that meant.
That is still there.
Okay.
Because that is Habanos factory code and date. They used to be very secretive about how they were in, how you could figure out what that was. Now it's simpler. But we do reproduce that because there are people that are interested to know is the year, for example. What year was this cigar produced? And that, because of the health warnings, you can't see any longer. But what we do is that we input all that data in our warehouse into the NFC technology so that a consumer, even though a box is covered by the health warnings, you can get the data that the Cubans provide.
Yeah.
And you know that it's a real cigar because it comes from PCC.
It comes from PC. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I love PC. You know, any of the clubs that I go to, it was in Bangkok or in Taiwan or Australia or wherever I might be, that to take a cigar, and I know something's wrong with it. Not that it's fake or anything like that, but it's just not drawing well. There's something wrong with the cigar. It's just not quite right, which happens occasionally. They immediately replace it with something else. And if I take a box home and I find there's one in there or two that just don't work right for some reason, because it happens, I can bring it right back and they'll give me another one. That to me is worth.
Well, it is a handmade product. You know, it is hecho a mano, made by hand. And anything that is handmade, you will occasionally have problems with the manufacturing. Nobody is perfect, so it happens.
Okay, yeah.
But we will replace them.
Yeah, well, I know that. So that's why I only go and buy my cigars here. I don't buy them online or anything else because I can't trust it. I don't know that it is for real. So I do appreciate that quality control with it. But what other issues have you come across in the time that you've been here? What other challenges besides regulation or?
I think regulation is the main one. In as much as many countries, when they make tobacco legislation, it is related to cigarettes, mainly to cigarettes, because that is what the mass market for tobacco is. But then what happens is that governments will then sort of make a tobacco regulation without considering that there is something called cigars. And it's one law for all, and it might not be relevant or might not fit for cigars. So that is the main challenge, as far as I can see. I mean, there is other challenges, of course. We still have to be the best in the market. We have to have the best lounges, the best staff. Because it is, like I said all the time, it is a package. It's not only a cigar. It's the whole surrounding environment of where you smoke, the service you get, and everything else.
How do you train your people? I mean, you've got, I don't know how many varieties of cigars there are, but there are a lot. How do you
run
train
training
them?
courses for our new staff, and we have new staff, and like everybody else, especially because we expand constantly, we always have, or not always, but we very often have recruited new staff, and they start in junior positions, some of them. We have training courses that we have internally, and we use Habanos training courses, and train them little by little.
Are you finding that more women are smoking cigars now, or what's your observation?
I wish more women would smoke cigars, yes. You have to be the ambassador for that.
I'm happy for that.
Again, I think it depends very much on the country. In Taiwan, for example, there is more women, or younger women, that smoke cigars. It's still fairly male-dominated, but I think as it sort of have expanded and it's become, relatively speaking, more popular in certain countries, at least, there are more women smoking cigars. Let it continue.
Yeah. I'm always surprised. You know, sometimes I'll bump into some judges, the females, and I'll say, I don't know, I suppose you don't smoke cigars, and they give me a look and go, actually, I do. You know? It's just I don't have anyone to smoke the cigar with. You know, then they're too scared to come into a club, or they probably lived a life at home that the household didn't know they were secretly smoking cigars with their friends or whatever, like a cigarette. You know? So they were scared. And I said, no problem. I'll come and I'll teach you how to smoke it. If you don't know how, come on and I'll introduce you to it.
You're more than welcome to be our lady smokers ambassador.
Well, happy to take that role. Happy to take that role. What are you also doing in the way of? I see you have a lot of accessories as well. How's that business? What is the?
Well, because we sell cigars, it was a logic. We started that, I think, 20 years ago, I think. Because we used to sell accessories from all other brands, good brands and not so good brands. And of course, since we are in the cigar business, it's very natural that we know what you need to cut a cigar, what you need to light a cigar, and what you need to store a cigar. So me and my team decided that we needed to develop our own accessories and came up with the name Siglo.
You came up with that name.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not me personally. We had a competition in the company because we couldn't figure out the name, and we asked all our staff in Hong Kong to come up with a name.
Really? That's how you did that?
And a certain individual proposed Siglo because of Cohiba Siglo range and all that, and it became Siglo.
Oh my goodness! How long ago was that?
20 years ago.
20 years ago. And so now you have Siglo.
Now we have Siglo accessories. We have humidors, cutters, lighters, pouches, travel humidors.
Is that a good business?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's still a small part of our overall business, but it's a good business because we also know that the product we supply are made in order to do exactly what they're supposed to do.
Do you have something, I don't want to call it a vision or a mission, but what is your next plan of action with the cigars and Pacific Cigar in terms of your future?
do more of what we are doing. I think continue what we are doing. Continue to develop the retail concepts that we are. I mean, we opened last week a new shop in KL. We are opening one in Sydney in July. So to a large extent it's more of the same. Because we are we are a cigar company. We are not in any other business than cigars and the lifestyle around cigars.
Was it difficult in these new areas? Is it mostly people who already have cigar clubs who say, I want to expand into another location in the same city? Or are these new
this
people?
is our company
company
own and operates. So
Oh,
all
I
of these
see.
45 shops are owned and operated by PCC. Other people are, of course, welcome to open cigar. There's a lot of cigar bars that we don't own, or cigar shops that we don't own. But we develop our own cigar bar and lounges. So the ones I talk about is the one PCC. There is a multitude of other people or other cigar bars around, but and we supply them and we support them because the more the better. But when I talk about developing cigar bars and cigar retail outlets, I'm talking about ours.
You know, speaking of, I want to go back to legacy for a second because years ago, of course, we had the Nurse. That was the design of David Tang. All of them were, right? Which was a fabulous location. It was absolutely fabulous club. And Dr. Nee used to come in almost every day and smoke cigars, who was an incredible character, who ultimately wrote Encyclopedia of Cigars, which was probably the Bible of, now we have another one, but he was really the guru. And I remember he gave me a couple of cigars, because in those days we were exchanging cigars and sharing cigars, and what do you think of this one, and what do you think of that one? And he turned into a legend.
He did.
You want to tell us what we had an auction or what?
Oh, you mean the auction we did with Madison?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, he sadly passed away, unfortunately. And his widow, who is not a cigar smoker, was left with his most fabulous collection of cigars. And we decided to have a unique auction with Madison Auction to sell and offer for sale some of his collection, which was extremely popular because he had unique cigar. He had collected cigars for forever, and he had certain cigars that had not been seen in the market for years.
I mean, some of them went back to 1960.
I know.
Yeah. It was quite remarkable. There was also a great big jar, huge jar, which had all of his cigar labels in it. Which went down, which went into the auction. I wanted it, but I had no place to put it. You know? But the point is, you know, we're all going to always remember Dr. Nee with him being generous enough to make this available to us in that auction. But his legacy with the encyclopedia he wrote and who he
It's
was.
a remarkable book. It's just so big because physically it is not something you put in the shelf.
No, or that you can take to the beach with you.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's huge. It's huge.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And the photography in it is absolutely amazing. And his descriptions were...
And he did it for non-profit. He donated the money that he made out of it to a charity.
So he just did it for...
Passion. Yeah.
Which is what I discover in this business. People have a passion about their cigars, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, how they want to cut it. They want a straight cut, a V cut, how they want to light it. It's such a wonderful, I don't call it a hobby. I think I call it a passion. And,
It's a passion.
yeah.
I agree.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you. I guess what I wanted to see is, what do you think is next for you? You know, other than... You just opened another club in Lee Garden, which is beautiful.
Yeah, I forgot that one.
Thank you, by the way, because I like having lots of light and foliage and plants.
It is very light, and we wanted to create a sort of garden. Well, it is in Lee Garden, so we decided, well, in Lee Garden we should create a garden. So it has a lot of plants. Well, you've been there. It has a lot of plants.
Beautiful.
It has a wall of plants. It has a very big outdoor area, or not a big outdoor area, but it's sort of constructed so the outdoor and the indoor is sort of melting together into one place. We will see how long the plants survive.
Oh, well, never mind. There's a lot of sunlight there, and a lot
exactly.
of love. There's a lot of love, you know,
There's
a lot of good energy.
And cigar smoke as well. So
What's next? What are you looking for?
we are looking actually to expand or find another place for this place. To keep it, but find another place, probably. A bigger place. Because we have more and more members and more cigar smokers, and we need to find a place for them. But that is very opportunistic. And in Hong Kong, because we already have 16 or 17 places, it's not that we desperately need a new place, but if we find something that is unique enough, then we will take it.
But there are many more cigar smokers now, aren't there?
There are more cigar smokers, yes.
Because they've learned that it's a...
Well, I guess because people don't want to smoke cigarettes. That's
Okay.
one thing. And I think there are people that they get drawn into cigar smoking simply as a lifestyle, to meet other people. Their friends smoke cigars, they go to a cigar club. Because it's word of mouth. You can't advertise, you can't promote it in any other way or form than people coming in to try it. And because their friend or their family or whoever is smoking and they want to try.
So would you recommend to someone if they say, I want to really invest in cigars myself personally? Is it a good investment?
Yeah, but it's like all investment. You have to, there is always a gamble. It could go up, it could not go up. So I think that I leave entirely up to the people that want to invest or consider to invest.
What are the most popular cigars now, would you say? Or most...
How do you mean?
Well, what are the biggest collector's items, or what are the most...
I don't think there is one specific items. I think it is the very limited edition. When, for example, I can't remember even the name now. Not the Trinidad, but what was it? The 50th anniversary. Yeah, the 50th anniversary Trinidad,
Okay.
which was made in very limited
Yeah.
quantities.
Yeah,
Of course, if there is only 100 made worldwide,
yeah,
they become collectible.
right,
So those items are still very, very popular
right.
for collections.
Okay,
And I think a lot of them have never been opened or smoked, because once you have taken out one cigar out, then it
you
hasn't
ruin
got
the
same
collection.
value.
But it seems, I mean, from my observation, it looks like everyone wants Cohiba,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
I think that is to some extent at least driven by mainland China, in as much as the mainland Chinese have traditionally been very focused on the super premium brands. So they want Cohiba because they want Cohiba.
okay,
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining.
yeah.
But that's how it is.
They want what they consider the best of the best, and they want to be seen to be smoking a Cohiba, and that's their favorite cigar. But
I think it's changing. I think that in China it is changing, that they are now experimenting and smoking other cigars much more than they did in the past.
You know what I've also been surprised about is that when I was here and buying my Fundadores, which are longer, thinner cigar, the other guys wanted the big jumbo fat cigars, and so nobody wanted these. And I said, "I'll buy them all. I'll take every box in Hong
should
Kong,"
have
which
bought
I did.
all of them.
I did. I bought them all. And you know what? I've smoked almost all of them. But at that point, it was more they wanted to have Robusto. They wanted the bigger size. But what I'm finding today of the real cigar smokers, they actually love the size now.
It's a nice size.
It's a great size, yeah, and it's a very comfortable cigar to smoke. But before it was more, I think, maybe more macho, or more. They just enjoyed that cigar better. Now they like a different style of cigar, or they're happy to include that in their portfolio.
Yeah.
No, I suppose just like passion of investments is being passionate about that investment. If you do like gold or silver or watches or cars or by all means do it, because you're going to study it and you're going to learn about it and you're going to see how it actually operates. Let me ask you just a little bit on Cuba. The rollers have been rolling, most of them, all their life. Is that
Yeah, I guess so, because they recruited most of them fairly young, or at working age, if you like, and it is a very traditional job in Cuba. And yes, they have many of them started when they were 18 or 20 and rolled cigars the rest of their life, or
But it
working
takes them years to become.
Takes a minimum of 1 year before they're allowed to roll what you call commercial cigars that are for sale, because it is actually not easy. It's actually very difficult, in my opinion, but I'm not very
Well,
good at
I've tried. I
handcraft.
can't do it either.
No.
Yeah.
So it takes them a year in order to be trained sufficient in order to be able to roll, and then they start rolling the simple cigars, and then as they get better or considered to be better, they will roll more complex cigars.
Because the people I've met who have been doing it for years and years and years, who ultimately can roll a Fundadori, because not many of them can roll the long, thin cigars, apparently.
No, because long, thin cigars is more difficult. Because one of the problem with cigars, when they have a quality problem, is that they are what we call plugged or hard draw. And of course, the thicker the cigar, the easier it should be to draw. The thinner the cigar and the longer the cigar, the more certain you have to be that the composition of cigar is actually correct. Because if not, it won't draw, then you can't smoke it, and then...
I have heard a few rumors of, different companies wanting to have the Cohiba brand or to make themselves appear as a more luxury entity. Are you finding
How do you mean?
I don't know that certain watches want to be associated with a Cuban cigar, or that they want to be seen to be hanging out with these people, or maybe that's their crowd.
I think the association, or I think all luxury goods would like to be associated with other luxury goods, because it's sort of, you get the joint promotion out. And yes, there have been watchmakers that have made a watch with the Cohiba logo in it as such. And they were very popular with cigar smokers. But do remember, cigar smoking is still a very small community.
Yeah.
So you can't depend on making Cohiba watches. That's not the future, put it like that. Which actually we found out as well, because there was a sort of moment where we sort of said, okay, we take Siglo, and then we do, the popular word, brand extension. We try to make something that is not directly cigar related, like you can make cufflinks, so you can make pen, even watches. But it didn't work for us. Because I remember one of your written questions to me was, what didn't work?
Yes, right.
And that did not work.
Which was that? The pens?
Anything that was outside cigars, really. So now we stick to what we are good at, things that are related to cigars.
Oh, I see. So you did try to...
We did try, and we failed.
And it didn't work?
No,
it didn't work. And the things that did work?
Is cigar related. Stick to what you know.
The ashtrays, the cutters.
The ashtrays, the cutters, the lighters, and all that. Because doing brand extension, it assumes that people know the brand for what it is. But the problem is, the issue you will face is that if you then have a community of, let's say, 2,000 cigar smokers,
Yeah.
okay, you can sell cufflinks to those, but
Right.
that's not a cufflink business. That is just a silly business.
Right.
You need to sell thousands and thousands and thousands of cufflinks
Right.
to make it into a viable
Right.
business.
Right.
So it didn't really work very well.
Do you find, are you now also looking at some of the New World cigars as well?
A little bit, but we are not distributing New World cigars. We leave that to other people. We have enough. I mean, the Cuban cigars, I mean, we have 350 SKUs in Cuban cigars.
What's SKU?
SKU, different vitolas, so different sizes. And
350?
Yeah, in total, so 350. So I think we have enough with that. We don't need to go into... I think the Cuban cigars still have a very, very good offer with cigars for any taste. I don't think we need necessarily to go into New World cigars. Other people will do that and can do it as they like.
Yeah, and I'm still very passionate about this Cuban cigar. There's still something about it. I firmly believe that from what I've learned from going to Cuba, how they cultivate, what they do on the farms, again, the love they put into it, the energy they put into it, the workmanship that goes into it. It's a piece of art.
It is a piece of art.
And the people who are so passionate about what they're doing, which is also a work of art, which is hard to find. I mean, whether it's an Hermes bag or a watch, it's people who are very passionate about what they're doing. And I guess that comes to, if you're going to invest in cigars, people who invest are also passionate about cigars as a whole.
Yeah, I don't think you find many investors in cigars that are not cigar smokers,
Yeah.
put it like that.
Yes, yes. And I think so you
Not
stick...
that I know of, anyway.
nor me. So you stick with what you are passionate about,
Yeah.
whether that's, okay, if you happen to love, I said, jewelry or cars or investments or cash or gold or whatever, you stick to what you really feel most comfortable with. Or if you do like stocks, if you have a Tesla, you want to buy the stock, that you stick with what you really enjoy. But the Disney, it's what you feel good about, that you feel you want to learn more about it, that you want to engage in, that you want to study it, you want to understand how these people operate. And it's interesting because you do in Cuba, of course, you've got it's run by Spanish and Chinese foreign investors, right? So it's a whole team of you that are working on the development and expansion and so on for the cigar business. Right.
Yeah.
Is Asia one of the biggest areas?
It has become one of the biggest markets for Cuban cigars, or for cigars, premium cigars in general, yeah.
For the Cuban cigars in the world?
For Cuban cigars, yeah.
Yeah, it is one of the biggest ones in the world, right.
But I mean, remember, Asia is a lot of different countries. So
Yeah.
each country is not necessarily that big, but because you have so many smaller countries, and then you have one very big one, so if you join it together, it becomes a very big market.
Right. Now, I gave you some questions, and can't remember if there was another one that I missed out that you
If
would
you
like
have missed it, I won't tell you.
That's totally unfair. That's totally unfair. Is there something else that you feel challenging? It's easy to find people who really do want to go into this business, isn't it? I mean, you must have quite a few people who want to work in this business, I guess, or...
I mean, well, it has to be people, obviously, that find cigars and interesting or something they want to be associated with. There will be people that do not want to get into the cigar business or into the tobacco business because of the health issues or whatever other issues they might have around it. But yeah, I mean, we still find enough young people that are interested.
Are there any other areas that you want to expand into? You've opened up in KL. What's next?
Like I said, we're opening in Sydney.
Right.
We opened the second shop in Cambodia.
In Cambodia.
Yeah. We open in all those countries. In some countries, it's very difficult for us to do it from legislation point of view because you have to be a local company. You can't be a foreign investor in cigar or in tobacco retailing, for example, in Vietnam. So in Vietnam, we then have to find a local partner, and he will do it. We have done in Vietnam.
I want to ask you another question. Maybe it's a little bit sensitive. I didn't have it on your list of questions, but is it difficult in terms of, because you are Cuban cigars, that moving money around, is that tough?
It can have its challenges from time to time.
Okay. I mean, if it says Cuban, that they suddenly say,
well, you
what is
know as
this?
well, you just have to read the news and the restrictions that certain countries like United States has on Cuba. So yes, you have to be aware of it.
Okay, so that's, anyway, just being aware and working through that. Yeah. I really want to just put a final touch to this and say what I felt of what you've done, Dag, and I have so much admiration on this, is that the people I've met, the businesses that have been set up that are a great success, you've changed their lives in a way, and you've also brought them into a fraternity. Well, it's true. And you've brought them into a group of friends who are going to be friends for life.
Yeah.
And cigars just have that kind of a connection with people.
It does.
So you have, I feel, empowered a lot of people with their businesses, even with their own life, that you've given them this opportunity of opening up so many clubs in Hong Kong, giving us a chance to meet other people. I think it's remarkable. It's really changed my life, and I'm very appreciative that we have Cohiba atmosphere, we have your La Casa, and the different varieties that we have, a place to go, a place to meet people, a place to learn from people too. Because when you're smoking a cigar, it's about learning. Everyone has something else that you go, oh, I didn't know that. How does that work?
Yeah.
What's that about? Oh, they got a business in China. How are you doing that? It's a brilliant place. It's been a real education for me, and I'm very appreciative of really what you've set up and the people I've met from it who are just magic. So I want to say thank you very much, and thank you for helping me with this interview and helping me to let other people know about how wonderful.
Well, thank you for inviting me to do the interview then with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.